So the David Boies crash course on cross-examination. So you think you take a swing at it?
Sure. Take a swing.
Okay. All right. So principles of cross-examination. You say one of them is patience. One of the big ones is patience.
Yes.
You cross-examined a great general, General Westmoreland, who sued someone for libel.
CBS and Mike Wallace. CBS and Mike Wallace for libel.
And he was. Can you explain, like, not only, well, can you explain and contextualize the fact that he was a likable witness, and then talk about what you did, like what information you had, and then how you used that, and what principles were involved, I guess, in using those tactics?
I mean, Westmoreland was a career Army officer. He'd served his country his entire life. He looked like a general. He was, more than 6 feet. He was ramrod straight. He had a full head of gray hair, rugged face. And he was somebody who was obviously a patriot. He was somebody who I think the jury would start off admiring. And I was at that point considerably younger than I am now. And I thought that there was a grave danger that if I were to start off with a very aggressive cross-examination of him, it would turn the jury off. That they would feel I was not treating this person with the proper respect, and they would feel that I was being unfair to him, and that they would begin to develop sympathy for him. So what I had to do was I had to break down that image, but break it down in a soft way. Break it down so that the jurors came to the conclusion that there was a problem here before I pressed the idea that there was a problem here. And so what I would do is I started the cross-examination very respectfully. I'd been respectful in the opening statement. One of the things I said in the opening statement was this case was not about whether General Westmoreland was not a patriot. I said he was a patriot. I said it was, in fact, his patriotism that led him to do what he was criticized for, because he believed that we needed to win the Vietnam War. He believed we could win the Vietnam War. He believed that there was light at the end of the tunnel. But he was afraid that the public would not support the war and the public would abandon the war. And so he lied about how well they were doing. He misrepresented how many people of the enemy they were killing. He misrepresented how successful they were doing. And he wasn't doing that for any kind of selfish purpose. He didn't make any money out of it. He wasn't going to get a promotion out of it. He did it because he believed that this was the way to bring the country to the right decision. And
so briefly, sorry to cut you off, but briefly, this opening, to clarify, which when you talked about this in opening, this was one, your theory of the case, but it was also a way to prime the jury before cross that you weren't going to try to come down hard, right?
Exactly.
Okay, so just for the listeners. Okay, so go ahead. I'm sorry.
100% right. That's a great point. And so when I started cross-examination, in the beginning, I would say, now, General, you said this on your direct examination. Now, I have got a document here that on the surface looks like it's a little inconsistent with that. I'm sure there's an explanation, but I'd like you to give the jury what that explanation is. And he'd give an explanation, and then we'd go on to another point. And I would say, now, General, you said in your direct examination this, but in your deposition, you said this, and I put both of those up on a big board for the jury to compare them. And I would say, again, there's some difference here, and can you explain what that difference is? And his explanations weren't great, because what I was doing is I was showing him things that were really quite inconsistent. I just wasn't pointing out.
I bet you started with the most inconsistent stuff.
Stuff
that would be on its face, right?
On its face inconsistent. On its face inconsistent. and on his face, something that there wasn't an explanation for.
That's
And so
genius.
when I say, what's your explanation? Now he just sort of goes all over the map, trying to say something.
Squeeze water from a stone. Yeah.
Exactly. And you begin to, and the jury begins to wonder, well, that doesn't sound right. That doesn't really, it doesn't really sound. And sometimes he'd give an answer, and I'd say, General, I'm sorry, I just didn't understand that. Could you just explain that a little bit more? Because I'm not sure I understood exactly what you were saying. And the jury would be having the same thing. Listen, I don't understand that either. And as the jury began to have concerns about whether Westmoreland was really being um, as candid, then I could pick up the pace a little bit more. I could press him a little bit more, and uh, and uh, finally, um, uh, I got to the point where um, I said to him, it was very important to you, wasn't it, General, that you convey to the American people and to the Congress and to the president that there was light at the end of the tunnel, that we were succeeding. He said, absolutely not, Mr. Boies. That's just not so. I never would have used those words. I didn't believe it. I didn't believe it. It was too uncertain. And so I never would have used those words. And I said, General, that's just not accurate, is it? You're not telling the jury what you really wrote back then, are you? And he got very exercised. And then, of course, I showed him a cable that he had written to his superior saying, I can now tell you that there is light at the end of the tunnel. Use those exact words. And that was a critical step in, I think, reaching the results that we reached.
I think he denied ever saying it because he thought that your use of light at the end of the tunnel was colloquial as opposed to an actual phrase from something that he said. That's very clever. So I'm guessing you personally read the document that came from.
Oh, yes.
So that's where preparation comes in.
Preparation.
To cross a witness. Yeah.
Absolutely.
There's 3 rules, right? Preparation, yeah.
Over and over, preparation, patience, preparation, patience, and preparation.
Yeah, there you go. Okay. All right.
And there's no substitute for it.
Yeah.
You get a lot of opportunities in cross-examination to make a point. But if you're not prepared to make that point, you miss the opportunity.
What do you mean prepared? Like just in terms of what do you mean prepared to make the point? Done the necessary material?
Yeah, read the documents, understand everything that's in the document. When I tried the United States against Microsoft case, I personally read every word of every document that we offered in evidence. I read every deposition excerpt. Now, with dyslexia, that is slow. And it took me a long time to do it. But one of the advantages of reading slowly is you've got really good comprehension and you remember the stuff. So by the time I had to actually go into court, I had a great reservoir of facts that I could pull out. The same thing was true when I took Bill Gates' deposition. I knew the facts. I knew the documents. I knew when he was being inconsistent.
They hadn't prepared him well.
They had not prepared him well. I was surprised. I was really surprised.
When I said that when I saw you had said that in a news article, I thought, really? Like you would think that the best of the best lawyers would have prepared him.
Yeah, he had all the money in the world for lawyers.
Yeah, I'll say. Yeah.
But I mean, and a lot of times, the richer and the more powerful you are, the harder it is to accept preparation. You think you know it all, and lawyers sometimes can try really hard to prepare a witness, and the witness just isn't taking the preparation.